Tonight, Rivertown Radio Theater has enlisted the help of what we shall say are illegal aliens. The illegals were needed, along with a Homo sapien or two, to educate our listening audience on a variety of topics, including how to get out of the way when a demolition team comes calling, how to interpret poetry, and how to hitch a ride pretty much wherever you want to go. So sit back and take notes as we present to you the first act of Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
This is the story of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Perhaps the most remarkable, certainly the most successful book ever to come out of the great publishing corporations of Ursa Minor. More popular than the Celestial Home Care Omnibus, better selling than 53 More Things to Do in Zero Gravity, and more controversial than Ulan Kufid's trilogy of philosophical blockbusters, Where God Went Wrong, Some More of God's Greatest Mistakes, and Who is This God Person Anyway? And it already supplanted the great Encyclopedia Galactica as the standard repository of all knowledge and wisdom, because although it has many omissions, contains much that is apocryphal, or at least wildly inaccurate. It scores over the older, more pedestrian work in two important ways. First, it is slightly cheaper. And second, it has the words, "Don't Panic," inscribed in large, friendly letters on the cover. To tell the story of the book, it's best to tell the story of some of the minds behind it. A human from the planet Earth was one of them, though as our story opens, he no more knows his destiny than a tea leaf knows the history of the East India Company. His name? Arthur Dent. He is 6 foot tall, ape descendant, and someone is trying to build a bypass through his home.
Come off it, Mr. Dent. You can't win, you know. Look, there's no point in lying down in the path of progress.
I've gone off the idea of progress. It's overrated.
But you must realize you can't lie in front of the bulldozers indefinitely.
I'm game. We'll see who rusts first.
I'm afraid you're going to have to accept it. The bypass has got to be built, and it's going to be built. Nothing you can say or do will do anything about it.
Why has it got to be built?
What do you mean, why has it got to be built? It is a bypass. You've got to build bypasses.
Didn't anyone consider the alternatives?
There aren't any alternatives. But you are quite entitled to make any suggestions or protests at the appropriate time.
Appropriate time?
Yes.
The first I knew about it was when a workman arrived at the door yesterday. I asked him if he'd come to clean the windows, and he said he'd come to demolish the house. He didn't tell me straight away, of course. Oh, no. First he wiped a couple of windows, charged me a $5, then he told me.
But, Mr. Dent, the plans have been available in the planning office for the last 9 months.
Yes. I went round to find them yesterday afternoon. You hadn't gone exactly out of your way to pull much attention to them, have you? I mean, like actually telling anybody or anything?
The plans were on display.
And how many members of the public are in the habit of casually dropping around the local planning office for the evening? It's not exactly a noted social venue, is it? And even if you had popped in on the off chance that some raving bureaucrat wanted to knock your house down, the plans weren't immediately obvious to the eye, were they?
That depends where you were looking.
I eventually had to go down to the cellar.
Oh, that's the display department.
With a flashlight, no less.
The lights had gone out.
So had the stairs.
Well, you found the notice, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, I found them. It was on display at the bottom of a locked filing cabinet, stuck in a disused lavatory with a sign on the door saying, "Beware of the leopard." Ever thought of going into advertising?
It's not as if it's a particularly nice house anyway.
I happen rather to like it.
Mr. Dent.
Yes, hello?
Have you any idea how much damage that bulldozer would suffer if I just let it roll straight over you?
How much?
None at all.
By a strange coincidence, none at all is exactly how much suspicion the ape descendant Arthur Dent had, for the one of his closest friends was not descended from an ape, but was in fact from a small planet somewhere in the vicinity of Betelgeuse. Arthur Dent's failure to suspect this reflects the care with which his friend blended himself into human society. after a fairly shaky start. When he first arrived 15 years ago, the minimal research he had done had suggested to him that the name Ford Prefect would be nicely inconspicuous. He will enter our story in 35 seconds and say, "Hello, Arthur." The ape descendant will greet him in return, but in deference to 1,000,000 years of evolution, he will not attempt to pick his fleas off. Earthmen are not proud of their ancestors and never invite them around to dinner.
Hello, Arthur.
Ford, hi, how are you?
Fine. Look, are you busy?
Well, I've just got this bulldozer to lie in front of. Otherwise, no, not particularly.
Well, there's a pub down the road. Let's have a drink and we can talk.
Huh? Don't you understand?
Mr. Dent, we're waiting.
Ford, that man wants to knock my house down.
Well, he can do it whilst you're away, can't he?
But I don't want him to.
Well, just ask him to wait till you get back.
Ford.
Arthur, will you please just listen to me? I'm not fooling. I've got to tell you the most important thing you've ever heard. I've got to tell you now, and I've got to tell you in that pub there.
Why?
Because you are going to need a very stiff drink. Now, just trust me.
I'll see what I can do. It had better be good. Hello, Mr. Prosser?
Yes, Mr. Dent. Have you come to your senses yet?
Well, can we just assume for a moment that I haven't? And that I'm going to be staying put here till you go away?
So?
So you're going to be standing around all day doing nothing?
It could be that...
Well, if you're resigned to standing around all day doing nothing, you don't actually need me here all the time, do you?
No, not as such.
So if you could just take it as read that I'm actually here, I could slip off to the pub for half an hour. How does that sound?
That sounds very reasonable, I think, Mr. Dent. I'm sure we don't actually need you there for the whole time. We can just hold up our own end of the confrontation.
And if you want to pop off for a bit later on, I can always cover for you in return.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Well, that'd be fine. Very kind of you, sir. Very kind.
And, of course, it goes without saying that don't try to knock my house down while I'm away.
Oh, good Lord. No, Mr. Dent.
Ford, do you think we can trust him?
Myself, I'd trust him to the end of the earth.
Yes, but how far is that?
About 12 minutes away. Come on, I need a drink.
And by drink, Ford Prefect meant alcohol. The Encyclopedia Galactica describes alcohol as a colorless, volatile liquid formed by the fermentation of sugars, and also notes its intoxicating effect on certain carbon-based life forms. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy also mentions alcohol. It says, the best drink in existence is the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster, the effect of which is like having your brain smashed out by a slice of lemon wrapped around a large gold brick. The guide also tells you on which planets the best Pan-Galactic Gargle Blasters are mixed, how much you can expect to pay for one, and what voluntary organizations exist to help you rehabilitate.
6 pints of bitter, and quickly, please. The world's about to end.
Oh, yes, sir. Nice weather for it. Going to watch the match this afternoon?
No point.
Foregone conclusion, you reckon, sir? Arsenal, without a chance.
No, it's just the world's going to end.
Yes, you said. Lucky escape for Arsenal if it did.
No, not really.
There you are, sir. 6 pints.
Keep the change.
What? From a $5? Thank you, sir.
You've got 10 minutes left to spend it.
Ford, would you please tell me what the hell's going on?
Drink up. You've got 3 pints to get through.
3 at lunchtime?
Time is an illusion. Lunchtime, doubly so.
Very deep. You should send that in the Reader's Digest. They got a page for people like you.
Drink up.
Why 3 pints?
Muscle relaxants. You'll need it.
Did I do something wrong today, or has the world always been like this and I've been too wrapped up in myself to notice?
All right, I'll try to explain. How long have we known each other, Arthur?
5 years, maybe 6. Most of it seemed to make some kind of sense at the time.
All right, how would you react if I said I'm not from Guilford after all, but from a small planet somewhere in the vicinity of Betelgeuse?
I don't know. Why do you think it's the sort of thing you're likely to say?
Drink up. The world's about to end.
Oh, this must be Thursday. I never could get the hang of Thursdays.
On this particular Thursday, something was moving through the ionosphere miles above the surface of the planet, but few people on the surface of the planet were aware of it. One of the 6,000 million people who hadn't glanced into the ionosphere recently was called Lady Cynthia Fitzmilton. She was at the moment standing in front of Arthur Dent's house in Connington. Many of those listening to her speech would probably have experienced great satisfaction to know that in 4 minutes' time she would evaporate into a whiff of hydrogen, ozone, and carbon monoxide. However, when the moment came, they would hardly notice because they would be too busy evaporating themselves. I have been asked to come here to say a few words to mark the beginning of work on the very splendid and worthwhile New Beddington bypass. And I must say immediately what a great honor and a great privilege I think it must be for you, the people of Coddington, to have this gleaming new motorway go through your cruddy little village. Oh, I'm sorry, your little country village of cruddy Coddington. I know how proud you must feel at this moment to know that your obscure and unsung hamlet will now arise reborn as the very splendid and worthwhile Coddington Service Station, providing welcome refreshment and sanitary relief to every weary traveler on his way. And for myself, it gives me great pleasure to take this bottle of very splendid and worthwhile champagne and break it against the noble prow of this very splendid and worthwhile yellow bulldozer.
Get out of here. Come on.
The next sound which found its way to Arthur's Dent ear sitting in the pub was either a herd of dinosaurs in heat, the roar of a bulldozer getting ready to demolish a house. Either way, Arthur needed to know.
What's that?
Don't worry, they haven't started yet.
Oh, good.
It's probably just your house being knocked down.
What?
It hardly makes any difference at this stage.
Oh, my God, it is. What the hell are they doing? We had an agreement.
Let them have their fun.
Damn you and your fairy tales, they're smashing my home. You half-crazed Visigoths. Stop!
Arthur, come back. It's pointless. Oh, hell, I better go after him. Barman, quickly, can you give me 4 packets of peanuts?
Certainly, sir. There you are, 28 pence.
Keep the change.
Are you serious, sir? I mean, do you really think the world's going to end this afternoon?
Yes, in just over 1 minute and 35 seconds.
Well, isn't there anything we can do?
No, nothing.
Well, I always thought we were meant to lie down and put a paper bag over our head or something.
If you'd like, yes.
Well, will it help?
No. Excuse me, I've got to find my friend.
Very well, then. Last orders, please.
You pinstripe barbarians, I'll sue the council for every penny it's got. I'll have you hung, drawn, quartered, and whipped and boiled, and then I'll chop you up into little bits until you've had enough.
Arthur, don't bother. There isn't time. Get over here. There's only 10 seconds left.
And then I'll do it some more. And when I finish, I'll take all the little bits and I'll jump up and down on them, and I'll keep on jumping up and down until I get blisters, or I can think of something even more unpleasant to do with, and I'll... What the hell is that?
Arthur, quick, over here.
But what the hell is it?
It's a fleet of flying saucers. What do you think it is? Quick, you've got to get hold of this rock.
What do you mean flying saucers?
Just that. It's a Vogon constructor fleet.
A what?
A Vogon constructor fleet. I picked up news of their arrival a few hours ago on my sub-ether radio.
Ford, I don't think I can cope with any more of this. I think I just got to go and have a little lie down somewhere.
No, just stay here. Keep calm and just take hold of this.
People of Earth, your attention, please. This is Prosthetic Vogon Jeltz of the Galactica Hyperspace Planet Council. As you no doubt will be aware, the plans for the development of the outlying regions of the western spiral arm of the galaxy require the building of a hyperspace express route through your star system, and regrettably, your planet is one of those scheduled for demolition. The process will take slightly less than 2 hours of your Earth minutes. Thank you very much. There's no point in acting all surprised about it. All the planning charts and demolition orders have been on display at your local planning department in Alpha Centuria for 50 of your Earth years, so you've had plenty of time to lodge any formal complaints, and it's far too late to start making a fuss about it now.
Not too late.
What do you mean you've never been to Alpha Centuria? For heaven's sakes, mankind. It's only 4 light years away, you know. I'm sorry, but if you can't be bothered to take an interest in local affairs, that's your own regard. Energize the demolition beams. God, I don't know. Apathetic, bloody planet. I've no sympathy at all.
It is unknown if any of those on Earth heard the huge explosion. And if anyone ever did, we'll never know. You see, the Earth was just destroyed, the huge explosion being a byproduct of the Vaughan demolition beam.
I bought some peanuts.
What?
If you've never been through a matter transference beam before, you've probably just lost some salt and protein. The beer you had should have cushioned your system a bit. How you feeling?
Like a military academy. Bits of me keep on passing out. If I asked you where the hell we are, would I regret it?
We're safe.
Oh, good.
We're in a small galley cabin in one of the spaceships of the Vaughan constructor fleet.
Ah, this is obviously some strange usage of the word safe that I wasn't previously aware of.
I'll have a look for the light.
All right, how did we get here?
We hitched a lift.
Excuse me? Are you telling me that we just stuck out our thumb and some bug-eyed monster stuck his head out and said, "Hi, fellas, hop in. I could take you far as the Basingstoke roundabout"?
Well, the thumb's an electronic sub-ether device. The roundabout's at Barnard Star, 6 light years away. But otherwise, that's more or less right.
And a bug-eyed monster?
Is green, yes.
Fine. When can I go home?
You can't. I found the light.
Ding! Good grief. Is this really the interior of a flying saucer?
It certainly is. What do you think?
Well, it's a bit squalid, isn't it?
What'd you expect?
I don't know. Gleaming control panels, flashing lights, computer screens. Not old mattresses.
These are the Dentrasi sleeping quarters.
I thought you said they were called Bogans or something.
The Vogons run the ship. The Dentrasi are the cooks. Let us on board. They let us on board.
I'm confused.
Here, have a look at this.
What is it?
The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's a sort of electronic book. It'll tell you everything you want to know. That's its job.
I like the cover. Don't panic. It's the first helpful or intelligible thing anybody said to me all day.
That's why it sells so well. Here, press this button and the screen will give you the index. You've got several million entries, so fast wind through the index to V. There you are, Vaughan Constructor Fleets. Enter that code on the tabulator and read what it says.
Beep, 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 boop, boop, boop.
Vaughan Constructor Fleets. Here's what to do if you want to get a lift from a Vaughan. Forget it. They're one of the most unpleasant races in the galaxy. Not actually evil, but bad-tempered, bureaucratic, officious, and callous. They wouldn't even lift a finger to save their own grandmothers from the ravenous bug-bladder beast of Troll without orders signed in triplicate, sent in, sent back, queried, lost, found, subjected to public inquiry, lost again, and finally buried in soft peat for 3 months and recycled as firelighters. The best way to get a drink out of a Vaughan is stick your finger down his throat. And the best way to irritate him is to feed his grandmother to the ravenous bug-bladder beast of Troll.
What a strange book. How do we get a lift then?
Well, that's the point. It's out of date now. I'm doing the field research for the new revised edition of the guide. So, for instance, I will have to include a revision pointing out that since the Vaugans have made so much money being professionally unpleasant, they can now afford to employ Dentrasi cooks, which gives us a rather useful little loophole.
Who are the Dentrasi?
The best cooks and the best drink mixers, and they don't give a wet slap about anything else, and they will always help hitchhikers on board, partly because they like the company, but mostly because it annoys the Vaugans, which is exactly the sort of thing you need to know if you're an impoverished hitchhiker trying to see the marvels of the galaxy for less than 30 Altarian dollars a day. And that's my job. Fun, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Unfortunately, I got stuck on the Earth for rather longer than I intended. I came for a week and was stranded for 15 years.
But how'd you get there in the first place?
Oh, easy. I got a lift with a teaser. You probably don't know what a teaser is. I'll tell you. Teasers are usually rich kids with nothing to do. They cruise around looking for planets which haven't made interstellar contact yet and buzz them.
Buzz them?
Yeah, they find some isolated spot with very few people around, then land right by some poor unsuspecting soul, who no one's ever going to believe, and then strut up and down in front of them wearing silly antennae on their head and making beep-beep noises. Huh? Rather childish, really.
Ford, I don't know if this sounds like a silly question, but what am I doing here?
Well, you know that. I rescued you from Earth.
And what's happened to Earth?
It's been disintegrated.
Has it?
Yes, it just boiled away into space.
Look, I'm a bit upset about that.
Yes, I can understand.
So what do I do?
You come along with me and enjoy yourself. You'll need to have this fish in your ear.
I beg your pardon.
What the
devil's that?
Listen, it might be important.
What?
It's the Vogon captain making an announcement on the PA.
But I can't speak Vogon.
You don't need to. Just put the fish in your ear.
Ugh.
Should have a good time. Message repeat. This is your captain speaking, so stop whatever you're doing and pay attention. First of all, I see from our instruments that we have a couple of hitchhikers aboard our ship. Hello, wherever you are. I just want to make it totally clear that you are not at all welcome. I worked hard to get where I am today, and I didn't become captain of a Vogon constructor ship simply so that I could turn it into a taxi service for degenerate freeloaders. I've sent out a search party. As soon as they find you, I will put you off the ship, if you're very lucky. I might read you some of my poetry first. Secondly, we are about to jump into hyperspace for the journey to Barnard Star. On arrival, we will stay in dock for a 72-hour refit, and no one's to leave the ship during that time. I repeat, all planet leave is canceled. I've just had an unhappy love affair, so I don't see why anyone else should have a good time. Message ends.
Charming, these Vogons. I wish I had a daughter so I could forbid her to marry one.
You wouldn't need to. They've got about as much sex appeal as a road accident. And you better be prepared for the jump into hyperspace. It's unpleasantly like being drunk.
Well, what's so unpleasant about being drunk?
You ask a glass of water.
Ford?
Yes?
What's this fish doing in my ear?
Translating for you. Look under Babel Fish in the book.
What's happening?
We're going into hyperspace.
I'll never be cruel to a gin and tonic again.
The babblefish is small, yellow, leech-like, and probably the oddest thing in the universe. It feeds on brainwave energy, absorbing all unconscious frequencies and then excreting telepathically a matrix formed from the conscious frequencies and nerve signals picked up from the speech centers of the brain. The practical upshot of which is that if you stick one in your ear, you can instantly understand anything said to you in any form of language. The speech you hear decodes the brainwave matrix. Now, it is such a bizarrely improbable coincidence that anything so mind-bogglingly useful could evolve purely by chance that some thinkers have chosen to see it as the final clinching proof of the non-existence of God. The argument goes something like this. I refuse to prove that I exist, says God, for proof denies faith, and without faith I am nothing. But, said man, the babblefish is a dead giveaway, isn't it? Proves you exist, so therefore you don't. QED. Oh dear, says God, hadn't thought of that, and promptly vanished in a puff of logic. That was easy, says man, and for an encore he proves that black is white and gets killed on the next zebra crossing. Most leading theologians claim that this argument is a load of dingo's kidneys, but that didn't stop Ulnan Khalifad making a small fortune when he used it as the central theme of his best-selling book. Well, that about wraps it up for God. Meanwhile, the poor babblefish, by effectively removing all barriers to communication between different cultures and races, has caused more and bloodier wars than anything else in the history of creation.
What an extraordinary book.
Help me write the new edition.
No, I want to go back to Earth again, or its nearest equivalent.
You're turning down 100 billion new worlds to explore?
Did you get much useful material on Earth?
I was able to extend the entry, yes.
Well, let's see what it says in this edition then.
Okay.
Let's see. Earth, tap out the code.
Ding, tick, 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 ding, tick, 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 ding.
There's the page. What? It doesn't seem to have an entry.
Yes, it does. See, right at the bottom of the screen, just under Eccentrica Galumbits, the triple-breasted Horovaroticon 6.
What, there? Oh, yes, harmless. Harmless? Is that all it's got to say? One word, harmless? What the hell's that supposed to mean?
Well, there are 100 billion stars in the galaxy and a limited amount of space in the book, and no one knew much about Earth, of course.
Well, I hope you've managed to rectify that a little.
Yes, I transmitted a new entry off to the editor. He had to trim it a bit, but it's still an improvement.
What does it say now?
Mostly harmless.
Mostly harmless?
Well, that's the way it is. We're on a different scale now.
Okay, Ford. I'm with you. I'm bloody well coming with you. Where are we now?
Not far from Barnard's Star. It's a beautiful place and a sort of hyperspace juncture. You can get it virtually anywhere from there. That is, assuming that we actually get there.
What's that?
Well, if we're lucky, it's just the Vogons come to throw us into space.
And if we're unlucky?
If we're unlucky, the captain might want to read us some of his poetry first.
Vogan poetry is, of course, the third worst in the universe. The second worst is that of the Asgoths of Krea, during a recitation by their poet master Grunthus the Flatulent of his poem Ode to a Small Lump of Green Putty I Found in My Armpit One Midsummer Morning. 4 of his audience died of internal hemorrhaging, and the president of the Mid-Galactic Arts Nobbling Council survived by gnawing off one of his own legs. Gunthros was reported to have been disappointed by the poem's reception and was his own major intestine, in desperate attempt to save humanity, leapt straight up through his neck and throttled his brain. The very worst poetry of all perished along with its creator, Paula Nancy Millstone, Jennings of Greenbridge. In the destruction of the planet Earth, Vogan poetry is mild by comparison, and when the Vogan captain began to read, it provoked this reaction from Ford Prefect. And this from Arthur Dent.
Oh, freddled grunt buggly, thy micturations are to me as purtled gabblebotchinsons on lurgid bee. Group, I implore thee, my funteen turtle drones, and hoop-titiously drangle me with crinkly bidwurtles, for I will rend these in gobbleworts with my blurcrutchion, see if I don't. So, earthlings, I present you with a simple choice. I was going to throw you straight out into the empty blackness of space to die horribly and slowly, but there is one way, one simple way, in which you can save yourselves. Now think very carefully, for you hold your very lives in your hands. Now choose. Either die in the vacuum of space, or tell me how good you thought my poetry was.
Will our heroes survive this terrible ordeal? Can they win through there with their integrity unscathed? Can they escape without completely compromising their honor and artistic judgment?
I quite liked it, really. The imagery was really practically effective, and the metaphysical...
Please, someone get a sedative for Arthur.
Vogon poetry or adrift in space? That is the question.
To find out if the sedatives help Arthur, stay tuned. Rivertown Radio Theater will be back with part 2 of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Now, in tonight's episode, Dave Williams played both the book and Mr. Prosser. Roger Green was cast as the narrator and Lady Cynthia Fitzmilton, while helping us fine-tune the sound effects. Paul Oshadlik played Arthur Dent, and Peter Rosenberg took on the role of our visiting alien from Beetlejuice, Ford Prefect. Of course, one cannot have an ode to classic poetry without a Vogon, and this role was taken on by Denise Long, who also doubled as the bartender.
Thanks so much for listening in to Rivertown Radio Theater tonight, and we will now turn your listening devices back over to those broadcasting from this cruddy little village of Surgeonsville. I'm sorry. I meant your little country village of cruddy Surgeonsville. Hey, wait, Jethro, you're supposed to stick out your thumb when you're hitchhiking, not your middle finger.
Wait a minute. Great job, guys. Great job. That was a lot of fun to listen to. I know everyone out there enjoyed it, and... are you doing the second part tonight, or not tonight? Some other time. Okay. Do you have a holiday play coming up? Something for the holidays, or?
Do the second part of this.
Yeah. Oh.
We're going to do follow up to this in about 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right. Looking forward to it.
That's what I said. Stay tuned and put your finger down, Jethro.
I'm sorry.